Hey everybody. So going live here. Well, I'm live. Starting in about a minute here for the TLC Thursday on Gina Minyard. And this, I've been doing some live streaming with this whole coronavirus, social distancing, yoga studio shutdown mode. And Thursdays, actually I teach a class at Yoga Collective that is like this, where we break down poses, we work on the alignment in simpler postures, but we work very subtly and deeply to get the body tuned up. And then, of course, with some key exercises and stretches, we feel, really balanced afterwards. So, just bringing this here to this format, so if you're joining, if you want, even have questions, if there's, particular body parts you want to learn more about and to work with, that'd be cool. I'd be open to that. So I have my computer up here, so I can see your questions. You can just say hello if you're here and watching. Facebook no longer shows me just who is watching, just you have to say hello so I know you're here. And if you have questions or you want to, to work on something in particular, happy to do that. I love working on, oh, hey, Allison, yay. Glad you're here. I love to explore things. So, all right, it'll be about an hour. We'll try to keep it up to an hour, even a little bit under. So to start with, we'll do calf smashing. So maybe some of you looked at the video from last week or you took it last week, and we'll revisit some of the things that we did. And then we'll add in some more things this week too. So calf smashing is one of my favorite things to do. Some of you know that in my regular classes. So just going to take a blanket. And if you don't have a nice yoga blanket, you can use a thick bath towel, beach towel, even a fur blanket if it's thick enough. And roll it up nice and tight. You do want to make a firm roll. So I like to always start from the longer edge of the rectangle and from the fringy open side, so that when you roll it up, it makes a nice tight tootsie roll of a roll, right? And that goes behind your knees. And this can actually be really good for knees, believe it or not. Most instances, if there's some knee problems, of course it's gonna be questionable. Sometimes it's like a great thing, and sometimes it may not be the best thing. So you can, of course, skip it. But in general, this is going to be, yes, a little intense on the calves and hamstrings, and that's the idea. It's giving them a much needed massage. And it can also make space in the knees. So if there's some cartilage issues, that can actually be helpful for the knee. Ligament issues, this may not be so good. So you can just skip it and lean forward. If it's too much, too intense, sit down into it as you're getting used to the intensity of it. You want a little bit more. All right. So so then, as I'm chatting for a few minutes, this gives us something to do and get some good benefit within that. So, this idea of TLC, often the aches and pains in our body are from postural misalignment. Obviously that's complicated, complex. There can be many reasons for that, for our tension that we carry. And that's, obviously can be addressed with trained professionals. But in general, when we have sort of chronic aches and pains that don't have a specific cause, we know that comes from postural alignment. We sit a lot, gravity pulls on us. And so this work where we just bring our bodies back into the alignment of the way we're designed. And of course, that's unique to everybody, but there is a certain universality to how the bones line up with each other. And so when we focus on that and work with that, even though it's engaging and it's sometimes challenging in a really simple way. So I just moved my roll back a little further so that I can hit another part of those calves. We get a beneficial, transformative clearing from that. So that's what we'll work on, and it also just teaches us how to be in our bodies in a really functional and healthy way, and so that we, whatever else we're doing, whether it's a more, intricate, bigger yoga practice, right? Some people at the studio where I teach this, like they come to just do this class, to just get tuned up in this class, and some people do it as sort of part of their other classes that they also practice. So it just supports everything. Whether you then have other athletic things you like to do, or just even walking or whatever it is. So we'll get things tuned up, and as our bodies feel more balanced, our minds will feel more balanced. It opens up the pranic flow in a way that increases well-being, right? That brings us back into a place of connection and support. So that's how this is taking care as well of our minds and our hearts. All right. So let's get started then. So you did some calf smashing there, and now just sit up on that roll. Sit up high enough, and I'm going to turn this way so that you can see what we're looking for here. Sitting on the floor, which is not something that we do that often for a lot of us, can be really challenging. So if you're sitting down and you feel like you're sitting like this, right, that misaligns your low back in a big way. So sitting up on some height, so as you're watching my body, it's like my pelvis then can tip more forward. You can even use your hands to create more of a tip, inner thigh to sit bone, back and apart. And then, for me, that I can go far with that, too far. But we want to start with more of a tip forward, and then we come back to center in that way. When the spine is out of alignment, right, when the low back is rounded and our head is forward, like that's such a big part of our aches and pains. And what I talked about last week, those are coming back for, if you were here last week, I promised we would talk more about even where the ribs come into this and work with getting our ribs positioned as building on that support in the back. Okay, so just sit, find an easy seat, sitting up on maybe 2 blankets, maybe a blanket and a couple blocks. Either way, sit. And you can then soften your gaze or close your eyes and just take a few moments to connect to your breath. Connecting to that flow in and out. It's a way of connecting to yourself. And this work with alignment-based yoga, where we seek to position the body in very specific ways, almost, it feels like from an outside in sometimes, understanding, right? Understanding biomechanics, understanding, how all the parts relate. But of course, our main reference is from inside out. How are we connecting to the breath? How are we feeling into what feels more supportive? I do think we need the outside in, because sometimes what feels easy isn't always the most optimal thing, or maybe what feels good, ultimately it'll feel good, but at first might feel uncomfortable if you're establishing new patterns and more optimal patterns. So, but even as we apply these outside-in techniques, referencing always from that inner awareness, inner support of your own breath, and they come together in this way. So bring your hands to touch at the heart, centering in this way, breathing in, breathing out smoothly. And we'll open up the practice with the sound of an Om. You're welcome to join in from where you are, or simply listen. So inhale into center, full exhale out. And again, inhale into center. Bow your head, lower your hands to your thighs, lift your head, open your eyes. All right, so welcome, and if you're joining in, just it's good to have some props, maybe a couple blocks, a blanket if you have it, strap, some kind of strap. So last week we worked with the ball, we massaged our feet. I'm just gonna get off my blanket here. You can keep sitting on it if you're comfortable there. We massaged our feet, but today we're going to start, instead of massaging, we're just going to do some just sort of movement, some little self-massage of the foot. So that means just take hold of your foot one of your feet on either side there, and just grab each side. And so you're going to do folding and fanning. So you're going to fold, like you use your fingers to kind of dig into the center of the foot and peel the outer edges around to the center, and then you come back the other way. Put your thumbs on the top and kind of pull back. So the edges of the feet pull back. Do that a couple times. I lifted my foot up so you can see maybe a little better. But folding and fanning and just kind of stretching out the foot in that way. Often our feet are super tight. The calf smashing hopefully helps with that. But just our feet are so important. I spent time on the feet last time we did this Thursday class, because feet are the where your core begins, right? And lining up your feet, you have to line up your feet to support everything above it. All right, so flaring, fanning, and then holding on either side of your feet, and you can twist, doing these S curves. So you turn one way and the other way. Hey, Wanda, good morning. So twist and turn, and just opening up the foot in that way. All right. So yeah, say hello if you're here watching. I'd love to know who's here. So that's one foot, fanning, flaring. Okay. And then we'll do the other one. So just even, well, before we do that, just notice how that feels. That's nice. I'm realizing I'm in pretty real isolation. So fingers on the inside, you can fold your foot around that, folding, and then fanning back, thumbs kind of on the top, and peel the edges of your foot back with that. So fold and fan. I was just saying, it's like, yeah, I see my family, but I'm realizing that, oh, it feels nice to have my foot be touched, even if it is by me touching my foot. I need to touch. I'll stop there. Do more touching. Self-touching. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, this is on the internet. Settle down. All right, so hold the sides of your feet and twist. Hey, Pamela. Good to see you. Twist either side of the foot. Little S curves there. So you're twisting in opposite ways. And so opening up your feet. Okay. So then come on up to, just again, just feel your feet for a moment. Just how that gave them some good, just opening and awareness. And let's actually, having done that, let's go ahead and stand up. We'll make our way back down to the mat shortly. But just stand up, and just having done that for your feet, you can feel what you have access to. I'll turn this way for this. So stand with your feet hips width distance, and bend your knees. And just you can bring your hands kind of right into your tops of your knees there. And with that, try this maneuver with your toes. This will keep you very busy. Press your big toes down and lift your other 4 toes up. This may be relatively easy for you. I find for most people that is. And then try the opposite though. You press your 4 toes down and lift your big toe up. That's going to be much more difficult. So sometimes some people have to kind of start by, getting down, pressing with their fingers, big toes down, lifting the other 4 toes up. And then you go the other way, lifting your big toe up and try to press the other 4 toes down. This is serious toe articulation, but what this is doing is strengthening your arches. We stretched out our arches with a little massage, and now and the fanning, the folding, the twisting, and now here we are working the arches of the feet. And so, yeah, you can see I'm good at this, man. It's like I have worked on my toes, and that's impressive. And I noticed one of my left big toe doesn't want to do the same thing as my right big toe, but that's getting better. And even a little bunion on the left side. And this will prevent bunions and heal bunions. So it's good to practice this and get good at it. And the next time you try this, it'll probably be easier because your mind is probably still working on it. We'll be working on it after you finish here. So don't worry if that is absolutely baffling, completely like, what did you want me to do? But then, come back to it again. You may find that that's a different experience. Okay, so with that, just shake it off. Oh boy, welcome to my world. I'll have to work the feet and the toes. And lower yourself back down to hands and knees. And then with that, let's just stretch out the toes. So either with toes tucked under like so, just kind of push down into the toes so you get a nice stretch there. If your knees and feet tolerate this, you can sit back on your toes for a little bit. That also starts to get easier, just like any other body part. And joints, they can get more stretched out, more range of motion. If that's a lot, just somewhere in between, right? You can tuck your toes under and Just kind of ease back into it as best you can. Go easy with it. Obviously, you're in charge of your sensations, and if you need less of something, right? Okay, so then back to hands and knees, and now point your feet back and just give a good little smack down, and you can just kind of roll the toes and ankles around a little bit there, having done that. Okay, so I love spending time on the feet. It just really opens up awareness through the whole body. So now if you have a block, stay in table pose and place your block between the upper thighs and have toes tucked under again. So with toes tucked under, spread the pinky toes to the edges of the mat. That's like you're trying to put more weight into your big toe, right? So fan the pinky toes, squeeze the heels, the shins in, and squeeze the block as well. So it's like as if you even have block between the lower legs. Give it a little squeeze. And just from the legs then start to send the sit bones back, the tailbone up, and then just move that like a wave through each part of your spine. Low back, middle spine, the head goes last, lifting up from there. And then start at the tailbone again, curl the tailbone under and firm your belly in and up. Pull your ribs in, push to your hands and round your back as you stretch through. And again with the inhale, do this a few times, moving through and try to stay connected to your feet. You'll start to feel over time, and all this takes time, and it's amazing. We have this, so exhale, round under, go at your own pace. Start to deepen the movements, get more stretch, more connection as you go. You can add side-to-side movements, twisting movements with it. So we have this amazing body, this extraordinary instrument of consciousness, right? The human body is amazing. And we're obviously, we inhabit it from our first breath as we come into the world, but it takes a certain amount of awakening and exploration to really bring online all the parts come together. So that's pretty cool. And to me, that's what we're doing here. That's why we're breaking things down instead of just yoga practice. That's about do this pose, do that pose, and yes, feel the strength, the stretch from that, but just really break it down, slow it down, and learn about yourself and get more subtle and endlessly deeper with how it all comes together. All right, so the next time you round your back into cat pose, let's hold that shape. It's like I said, I wanted to bring a little more of, from what we did last week, get a little higher up into the spine, into the rib area. So cat pose is a great pose, obviously to stretch out the back, keep squeezing the block. And of course, now you get this strong activation, your belly in, your lowest belly pulling in and up, the front ribs pulling up. And I want you to really feel into your back. Like, can you stretch more? You get deeper into where you pull the ribs back. Some of you are going to be tighter there. Some of you might be tight in your low back, and so you want to try to press the tailbone down and under. And really push through your hands, push the floor away as you pull your ribs in. And slide your throat back and stretch. How deep can you make that curve of your spine this way? Even press your hips a little more forward. That's it. All right, so soften out of that with an inhale. Just come back, lift your tail, lift your head, lengthen back out. Okay, so then, very good. Remove the block, and let's come onto our backs. We'll come to a seat, rather. Let's start there. So along with that cat shape, let's continue to stretch out the back there. So just a simple movement here. And, for some people, there's, good reason to be very careful with a rounded spine. And I think if that's you, cat pose is a really safe place to explore how much you can round the back. As soon as we, use the ground, we're kind of laying back into the ground. We have to be a little more careful with how all of that's coming together. So you can always go back to hands and knees, keep going with that, or you can join here. So knees bent, feet on the floor, press your heels down, grab on behind your legs, and lengthen your spine, which is to say, not this way, but lifting your ribs too much, but just lengthen, tailbone top of head. Yes, activate the strength of your low back, lifting in and up. Then start to lean back. I'm really just going to do this like once, maybe twice. As you start to lean back, keep hold of your thighs, and like you just did in that cat pose, start at your tailbone, start at the hips, and curl under, and with that, go slow and really tighten in, really pull front to back, and then try to lay down, start at this lowest part of your spine, and lower down nice and slow. I didn't used to be able to do this. I didn't used to be able to get my spine all the way to the floor, especially at the lower part. I had to really learn how to stretch myself out in that way, and then lay slowly the rest of the way down. and rest for a moment. So let's add in, most of us need to stretch out our backs a lot. So either roll to one side from there or help yourself back up. And let's actually come back to hands and knees. I want to do one more thing first before we do that one more time. All right, so I'm interested in really this part of the back, like this part right here, the middle back. It's super tight and it's very hard for people to get that part back. All right, so let's stretch out that part more. Take the block between your thighs, if you have one. If you don't worry about it. Tuck your toes under, give the block a squeeze, move your sit bones back. And in the same way we started, and just trying to find neutral spine here. Pull your ribs way in, keep the sit bones moving back as you lengthen your spine. So then move your right hand up a little further. You can bring your hands, that left hand to the front ribs and twist to the left. I like the hand on the ribs here because it's teaching you to still pull back at your rib cage even as you're keeping the hips back, the sit bones back. And twist, and you can add that left arm up with an inhale and then come underneath and make this about stretching out your middle back. So I'm not really a fan of just sort of laying down and taking this arm behind this way. It's a stretch for the shoulder, but I want you to stretch your ribs. So reach underneath that left hand, push down into your right hand. Don't even worry about getting all the way to the floor with your torso. I just want you to reach with that left hand, like as far as you can. Try to lean back with your rib cage. Try to get more towards the back of your left shoulder and the back of the ribs. Then you can put your head down, maybe that left shoulder down. And the idea is to keep pulling back here. A more advanced version of this is optional, is to go more at a diagonal and to then really lean back and pulling at your ribs like a cat pose. And it's okay for this knee to get a little bit light. You might tumble over, be careful. But it's not the end of the world as long as you pull your ribs in and you move from that center. So you see on the other side how much stretch I get in the ribs there. All right, come back up to center carefully. And that's more advanced. That took me a long time to figure out I could stretch like that. When my teacher told me to do that, I was like, I don't think I've been that way. Right? You have no idea how many times I've heard that from you. I don't think my body does that, but it's a question of, developing all of this. Okay, so left hand up a little bit. Put your right hand on the front of your ribs because you're reminding your rib cage to pull back. You'll keep those legs steady, sit bones back. You can twist a little more to the right with that as you elongate your spine. So pull the ribs in, twist, keep those legs stretching back, reach the right arm up with an inhale, and then underneath. And again, don't just sort of lay it down, but work it. Work it a little bit here. Push into the left hand, pull your ribs in, reach with that right arm. Reach, pull your ribs back, reach. Get as far as you can, twist more, try to get more to the back of the ribs. If you're trying to lay down the back of your head, the back of the right shoulder. And then staying there, or get more advanced, and just be careful with this, is to go more diagonal, reaching diagonally towards that back corner of your mat. And then with that, you pull your ribs way back. So I'm getting a massive stretch right in the middle of my back here, more than my shoulders. I'm like less interested in the shoulders here. Get into those ribs. Pull your belly in. Left knee might get light. Twisting carefully. Yes, be careful of your neck here. You gotta tuck your chin a little bit, and maybe that's too much for your neck, in which case just do the first stage. All right, come back up. Whew, slowly come back to table. Man, that's a big stretch. So then from here, take a breath with the exhale. Now round your back into cat and just tell me, you don't have to tell me. This is me pretending you guys are present with me here. I miss teaching people in front of me. So anyway, I'm glad you're here on the ethers, through the ethers. So how much more can you round your back in cat now? Probably a lot more. Pull your belly in and up with that. So don't just push and round, but now activate the tightness of your core. Belly, ribs, pull back from front to back and take that into that big shape. Yeah, I feel like I can bend more here in my back. Okay, so then again, soften that down, lengthen, and stretch out the other way. All right, so as promised, take a seat. This is huge, you guys, because many people, like in their bodies, there's this sort of forwardness of the ribs. The ribs kind of slant forward a little bit up. And so we're learning how to not just take the front ribs down, but a little bit back, which feels really weird. It feels like you're like doing this, but in the end, it's going to give you actually really good shoulders and a much more balanced spine. All right, so that's what we're doing here. So one more time, take a seat. Go slow and mindful with this. Heels can be on the floor and just press down, squeeze in. Maybe you can put a block between your thighs. Sometimes it gives you a little more control, lengthening. So elongate the spine, leaning back, and then once you get far enough back and hold onto your legs. Again, pull back in that same way. Make your spine all the way long, and then try to lay down one vertebra at a time. Tightening the front, tightening, 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 and then down. And especially this part, hold. Can you stay upright like this? Keep your throat back. See here, I have the ribs to the floor more, the belly strong. And then, can you keep your ribs back? Can you keep this deep abdominal tone front to back and lower the shoulders down, the head down without popping back up again? So you can set the block to the side. That's the work here. So sometimes we want to keep a low back curve, be at neutral spine. Here we're just trying to really pull back and get that activation. So try that here. Feet on the floor, feet on the hands on the thighs. And try to minimize the pelvis movement here. Try to keep your hips on the floor. You're going to have to tip your pelvis back a little bit and really activate now, especially more at the low belly. You don't want to only activate at the top, so more at the low belly. And pull in, pull at your ribs. Try to get those ribs to the floor. Maybe you have to curl up a little bit first. If you have a strap, you can put it underneath your ribs and kind of test it, right? Sort of like, looks like this. You don't have to do this right now, but if you have a strap, you would lift up and say, oh, look, I can pull. And that strap is in place even when I lower down. That's hardcore. Took me a while to get there. All right, so that's that core activation. Keep that. Lift your legs up. Bring your hands to the thighs forward and up. Let that help really support that lower abdomen tone. Still keep pulling those ribs back. To push and pull. Strong core is huge. It's hard work, right? It's so huge with how we stay balanced and tension-free or less tension, right? All right, relax down from there. So good. So then separate your feet to the edges of the mat. Take your arms out in a T shape. And so feet stay on the sides of the mat and lower both knees to the right. So windshield wipers, move the strap out of the way. And now you can even notice ribs here too. So just keep your legs active. Pull your ribs back on the left and draw the left shoulder blade into the back of the ribs. So that's the other piece of this. This is how you make your shoulders work better and feel better. Also, so the ribs come back and then the shoulder blade tip comes in to meet the backs of the ribs. So you'll see that on the other side more. So knees to the left, and you're stretching out to the front of that right thigh. Pull your belly, pull your ribs in, and then work that right shoulder blade in, keeping the ribs back. Right, so this is me not having ribs back. Here's me pulling my ribs back, and then I'm also working my right shoulder blade by turning, rotating out into that. Meanwhile, stretching through that right hip and leg. These little exercises are piecing us back together. Piecing us back together. It's amazing how apart, how easy it is for us to come apart. All right. So take your legs up, one hand on top of each knee. And so what I'm teaching you, and some of you, that I know are watching, hello, or they said hello. It's like you're more familiar with my style of teaching. If you're new and you're watching this, it's like I'm asking you to really create a lot of tone and resistance. It's like rarely about just sort of, rolling around and stretching it out, but sometimes, right? So even here you can just rock a little bit side to side and just feel what that's like. Great. Get things loosened up and just get a little nice easy flow in your body happening. All good. But then what the body really responds to your integration and strength, and the body relaxes because it feels safer, it feels connected. And so what's often our tension is protective, believe it or not. So here, hands on the kneecaps and press straight down to the backs of the hips so that, yes, now your low back, pelvis comes more to neutral and the low back is off the floor. But still bring in that easy tone front to back, a little more at the ribs, and then lengthen through your spine, tailbone top of head. And let that traction out your back. And then put your feet on the floor and walk your legs out, and let's try to keep that happening. So now we're going to build up our posture from the feet all the way up. So we worked our feet at the beginning, spread your toes, and work the feet, work the pinky edges back, press your big toes more forward, and use those as strong legs. So imagine you're squeezing a block, like we're doing hands and knees, turning the inner thighs towards the floor, like you turn the inner thighs back. Right, press the thighs to the floor, and then strong at your belly and your ribs. So here, pull front to back in the same way. But here, the pelvis is going to stay level, neutral. We're not going to tip the pelvis back and try to flatten the low back to the floor. How are we doing that? The thighs, the legs. The legs are going to govern the positioning of the pelvis, and therefore the low back. And then above that, again, belly, lowest belly, ribs, especially pull your ribs back more than you think. And that should feel like a lot of work. I'm working so hard, y'all. We're doing this for a long time, but it's like I still make this really intensely active. So that it's just resetting the body, right? So then with your belly and your ribs in, walk the shoulder blades a little closer underneath. But notice what's happening here. It's like the tendency is to move, when we move our shoulders back, we just kind of poke our ribs forward, but rather keep your ribs in. Find where you can take arm bones back and shoulder blades on the back within that. Okay. Press into your arms, lift your right leg to a hover. Bend your right leg up towards you and interlace your fingers behind that thigh. Push into your hands. We did this last time together. This is one of my favorites. I love this pose because it's about tuning up the whole body, trying to bring all these parts together. So keep that left thigh super strong, the whole leg, pressing it down, inner thigh down. Tighten your abdomen back. By pushing into the hands, you're also getting a little bit of hip activation and try to tighten that outer right hip a little bit more. Maybe you can stretch your leg a little straighter. It's fine as long as you don't change anything else. So you might hit the limit of your hamstring flexibility, maybe right about here, but don't straighten the leg at the expense of everything else, right? So only straighten if it goes there, but you're straightening as much as you can, and you're getting your hamstring stretch in relationship to your balanced spine. So that's awesome. That's a great place to be. Rebend that knee then, and arms on the floor. Reach your leg out long, nice and slow. All right, and then second side, press the thighs down, tone your abdomen, lift your left leg to a hover, and bend that leg up. Interlace your fingers around that thigh and push into your hands. Push the right thigh, keep that whole leg down and strong, keeping your pelvis, your low back balanced. And then tighten the core, firming the left hip especially, both hips, both glutes, but especially this left side. As you push into your hands and maybe you straighten the leg a little bit more, or honest, and how far we can straighten the leg without compromising your balanced pelvis and spine. And working all these actions, abdomen strong, especially maybe a little more on the left side with that left hip. So you work in this balanced symmetry, balanced action, we call it dynamic symmetry. All right. So rebend that knee, arms on the floor, reach the leg out nice and slow. And then once you get there, just relax for a moment, shake it off. All right, and then bend your knees and take the legs up. Again, one hand on top of each knee. Push down into the backs of your hips. So neutral pelvis and spine, and then traction. And add to that, don't change that, but take the knees as wide as they go. Hold the shins below your knees and pull up towards your shoulders. So still hips are on the floor, still you're in these balanced curves. Pull your ribs in usually a little tighter as you pull back. Push into your hands, but pull back. And so yes, get a little more stretch for this inner legs here. All right, then you can hug your knees up and yes, rock it out a little bit side to side. And just be soft and massage it out. It feels nice just to, all that structured engagement. So yes, take a moment to just soften things up. And so it's another way of kind of resetting here. All right, so either roll to one side, or as you curl up, you can rock and roll up if that feels okay to you, using that same core strength. Hi Martha, thank you, saying hello. And then from here, stand up. So let's see what we've done here. Let's stand up. And now this is the hard part. So if you have a block, place it between your shins, on the medium side of the block, right? So this is the narrow side, here's the medium side. Give it a good squeeze, a few inches below the knees, right? And then, like we did at the beginning, bend your knees and bring your hands to your thighs. Get down to those feet, so you can always practice 4 toes down, big toe up, big toe down, 4 toes up. But then, I think it works well to just keep kind of what's most functional is your big toes down, and then try to drag back. You're literally trying to drag the big toe and even the ball of the foot back towards the heel. It's called shortening your foot. That's very subtle. You can also lift a heel. It's called this gecko slide, where you press down and drag back. Tighten the glute and hamstring as you do that. Lower that heel to the other side. Press down, drag back. So we always want our muscles to be engaging. Often tense muscles are weak muscles, right? Some of the tension is because there's not enough structural balance in how the muscles are working. So then we need to stretch things out, and sometimes I'll go and stand up. I'll spare you a lecture during that part. Yes, we need to stretch things out. Yes, we need like massage or rolling out tight muscles, but the muscles really respond to strength and integration, balance to joints. All right, so try that again. And then what it says, like the hardest thing to do is we're going to try to stand up straight, well, and aligned. All right, so a little bend of your knees again. Press your big toes down, balls of your feet down. Drag back and connect up into your hips. And keeping the thighs back, and that's going to set you up. We did this last time we were together. Keep the thighs back and then just start to stand up again. And what you want from here is you're going to keep hands on the very fronts of the thighs and keep pushing them back as you stand up straight. And that's like you laying on the floor, right? You are turning the inner thighs towards the floor, trying to press them down. So press your thighs back, inner thighs back. And then as you squeeze the block and squeeze the glutes, what we're not doing, see if you can see this in my pelvis, it's not this, not tucking under and forward. We want to get more nuanced with that. We want to keep thighs back, keep a natural low back curve, but then tone your glutes, tone your abs without misaligning your pelvis and thighs like this, right? So this is a big deal. A lot of us are super forward in our thighs, right, and turned out even. So getting the thighs into position feels like your butt's sticking out behind you, and it is. So start to tone your belly, tone your glutes, and then here, we worked on the ribs. Here's this all-important part. Pull your ribs back. It's going to feel like, yes, your front ribs are down. Your upper body feels like it's draping forward. And I'm good with that. If I could grab your ribs, I would pull you back and up and let you hang like this, right? So pull your ribs back and up, keeping your hips, your legs neutral. Then once you get them back, keep them back, and then arm bones back, throat back, shoulder blades just come onto that without doing this. Watch. Right, shoulder blades will like push the ribs forward. So exhale, pull in the center. It's hard. This is a big deal, right? And it feels maybe rigid at first. Eventually it's going to feel way more natural and also way more easeful, like I said at the beginning. And so add to that, inhale, arms overhead. So you can just move your arms in these circles. I'll scoot back a little bit just so you can see more of the range of motion of my arms. Just lower back down. Do that a few times. Like I said at the beginning, what is optimal or most therapeutic in terms of establishing optimal patterns doesn't necessarily always feel easy or even good. So I'm hesitant to use the cue. Do what feels good, because I think we just ride sometimes the familiar patterns. That is going to be easier, right, than getting in there. So you're just moving arms overhead, pull those ribs in, and getting in there and working to establish more balanced patterns, right? So breathing, reaching, opening. All right, and now here, can you bend your elbows and come to cactus arms? And so this is for the shoulders. Ribs stay back, and then squeeze a little more into your shoulder blades. Make your arms firm and active. Turn your palms out. Work to squeeze your shoulder blades in. So what I'm doing in my body is I'm pulling my ribs back, and then I'm squeezing my shoulder blades to meet my ribs, right? And sliding the throat back. It's a lot going on there. So then, and that's shoulder integration, right? So lower your arms down. Let's just rest for a moment. Let's holding a lot. So we're working hard, even though we're doing very simple things, right? That's kind of the idea of this practice. We're not doing big, challenging poses. We're doing small poses. We're working deeply with connection. So again, refresh. I like the block there because it's just training you to stay aware of using those lower legs, pressing into the balls of your feet so you don't lock your knees back. Let's say, look at me, tend to lock knees back as we push our thighs forward. So shins in and forward, thighs back, and belly and ribs in. And now we're adding the shoulders here. So let's add another piece. Shoulder blades on the back. So ribs back a lot, more than you think. Work the shoulder blades in as you slide your throat back. And then I'm going to move back even further just so you guys can see my arms more. So then keep this strength of the arms, and then you're going to reach overhead. Right hand's going to hold left wrist. And so you're still pulling ribs back, and you're still pulling your shoulder blades to meet that. And then go sideways, hips to the left, torso to the right. And we're not letting that go. You're not just saying, okay, now I'm just stretching. But keep pulling back into the shoulder blades. Pull your ribs back. Then sideways stretch. It's hard work. You're going to feel your arms working. You're going to feel your shoulder blades working. It's going to make your sore in your arms in a way. That might surprise you. And come back to center. Again, bend those elbows, abdomen strong. Take the other wrist. Hips to the right, torso to the left. So pull your ribs back, and here's the shoulder blades squeezing onto the back. And reaching over from there, breathing. All right, come back up to center. And lower those arms with the exhale. All right, so remove the block and shake it off from there. Okay, so that was a lot of work. I hope you feel what we're doing with that. The steadiness of your legs, your thighs back, and then again, finding your center, belly and ribs in above that. So, and how the feet are part of that. We spent time in opening up the feet, and when the feet are centered, you're going to be more centered in your pelvis and your core. All of this is a process. All right, so you guys are doing great. From here, just come down into your back with this last little stretch of our class. No pun intended. Sorry, I feel a little goofy today. Last stretch of our class. We'll stretch out more. We'll use our strap. So if you have a strap, you can see some kind of long thing. It would even work to use a long sleeve shirt, just something that you can get your foot with, right? So come onto your back with that, and we'll take that into some greater stretches, a little more opening in our poses for good measure. Okay. So have the strap handy. Yes. The legs out on the floor, and start where we were before. Spread your toes. Right, turn the inner thighs down. And steady those legs. This means you're laying on your back, so you have to bring your mind all the way down to your feet. Activate the legs from feet to hips. Press them down, inner thighs down. And then drawing it above it, belly and ribs back. Shoulder blades underneath. Then bend your right leg up, and now put your strap across your foot. And just with awareness here, because if the leg is tight, if you straighten your leg, it's going to be out this way. That's fine. You get a full hamstring stretch now from the whole back of the leg. Just had a wind gust that opened up that door. So allow for that, and press up to the big toe. Keep pressing that left inner thigh down, and tighten your right hip in. Some of you will be able to, of course, stretch the leg up higher as long as that kneecap is tightening. And again, you want to create tone while you're stretching, so it's not a passive leg here. You want to keep pushing that heel, like you're karate chopping the leg down, even as you're bringing the leg up. And this leg is holding steady. So you keep that low back in its neutral alignment. To all the things. Nothing changes with that. So turn then the right hip out more, kneecap and toes point out, and take the leg up and over to the side. And now here, if you can have that leg straight, great. If it's up this way, if your leg was straight out here and you just lower it down this way, there's not much going on for you in terms of a stretch in the leg there. So it's more effective to bend the knee and take it up. You're just holding that knee like you did before. We just held the knee with our hands, right? And maybe from there, you're working the leg straighter, but maybe not all the way straight. But prioritize this upward slant of your thigh bone. Again, work the foot, even like you're trying to squeeze that heel to the other heel. And yes, that left leg is still trying to really press down, and using your abdomen, almost like you're twisting it more to the left. And bring that right hip in as you stretch out a little further. All right, bring that leg slowly back up, and then we'll release the leg down and just rest for a moment here. Rest and just feel what's happening with that. Close these doors. Okay, and then second side. So grounding, firming those legs, pressing the thighs down, bend your left leg up, take the strap across the foot. When you held the thigh, we had to maybe accommodate having keep the knee bent the whole time. With the strap, you can straighten your leg all the way, even if it's way out in front of you, hamstrings are tighter. Either way, press that right thigh down, keep that steady, your core steady. Some of you can take it up higher. Press up through the ball of the foot. Firm that left hip in, tone your center. And keeping that kneecap lifted, creating tone while you stretch. Remember, we drag the heels back when we're standing. So you're pressing through the heel forward even as you're drawing the leg up. Right? So creating connection as you stretch out a little more now. So then from the strength of your outer left hip, turn the knee and the foot out more. And yes, take it out at that diagonal stretch. We're going to want to prioritize a slant up with your thighs. So some of you'll need to bend the knee to get a slant upwards. So your knee is like closer to your rib cage. Then maybe it straightens a little bit. Maybe, you know, from there you can stretch it more. But that's going to be a much needed stretch to that inner thigh and hamstring. If it's down this way, so not much is going on there. Okay, I'm sure you're feeling some things, but in terms of where we want to stretch here, that's where we're working. Press the right thigh down. From that left hip, turn your belly and chest more to the right. As you tighten that left hip, it keeps you more straight ahead here, so try and balance all the parts together. All right, so inhale that leg slowly back up, nice and easy, and then carefully release that leg to the floor. All right, and settle in here, rest for a moment, and then bend both knees, feet on the floor. And now cross your right knee over your left knee. Take your arms out of T-shape. So now we'll add a twist. So hugging with your legs. Still think feet to hips, governing the pelvis. Low back curve. Pull your abdomen in. Now slide your hips a little bit to the right and lower the knees over to the left. And with that, again, from feet to hips, you still want to make a low back curve as you twist. But pull your ribs in tighter on the right. Use that to turn more, so you can get more twist with that. And like you did when we worked our shoulder blades, draw from that right hand to the shoulder blade more. Rib stays back to meet that. And from under the ribs, lengthen your spine. And once you get lined up, it's like breathe and hold the integration, but then open up more, right? Let that right shoulder open more. From right hip to right knee, opening more. Breathing in, breathing out. So come back up to center, straighten out your hips, and cross your left knee on top of right. Hug the legs towards each other, still already stay active in your feet, feet to hips, low back curve. And scoot your hips a little bit to the left, lower the knees to the right. So we lay on our backs, it's like, yes, you can rest. There's times for that, but also you can use the floor for continuous alignment. Feedback is like the best prop that you can have, right? So from feet to hips, make a low back curve, and then feeling the floor underneath you, pull your left ribs in towards the floor. Work that left shoulder blade into the heart, feeling the spine is, of course, not all the way on the floor, but you feel the axis of the spine and try to lengthen through that. Pull the ribs in on the left, that left shoulder blade in, and once you get it all lined up and balanced, elongate through. From left hip to left knee, through that left shoulder, opening up the chest. Breathing in, breathing out. You come back up to center and straighten out from there. Again, take the legs up, one hip on top of each knee, and press down into the backs of your hips. Tractioning, so hips on the floor, low back curve, but pull the abdomen in as you extend in two directions. From under your ribs, lengthen, tailbone top of head, and just get that happening here. And then you can take the knees a little wider and rock it outside to side. Rock it, pull it a little tighter. All right. So that's going to be about it for what I'm going to guide you through. I think I'd like to set you up with a supported posture to finish with. And then you can linger for as long as you like. You could just lay on your back. It's getting really windy. You can lay on your back and just rest, right? Or if you have a blanket, let's do it like this. If you have two blankets, that would be great. So like this, you can take one of your blankets and make a triple fold, right? And put that under your spine. So I'll bring you all the way up to your hips. You're gonna lay back over that. And then if you have a second blanket, or if you have two blocks, we're basically gonna take feet together, knees apart, and either rest with two blocks under the shins like so. Of course, laying back, I'll show you that in a moment. Or if you have a second blanket, I really like this version of, it's like a horseshoe. You unroll, you make the blanket bigger, and you roll it up from the long edge of that. And that's going to go around the front of your ankles, like a horseshoe around to the sides, and your legs can just rest on top of that. And then laying down with that blanket right to the hips. So your hips are on the floor, and the blanket is right above the hips, right, that lowest part of your spine. Give you a little extra support there. And some of you, as you lay back here, if you feel like your head's tipped too far back, you can sort of reach underneath and wad up the blanket, kind of right underneath. You don't have to fold it under or over. Just see, I'm just wadding it. I'm lifting it up and I'm pulling it up and mushing it up higher underneath my neck. So you get a little bump, a little blanket bump under the neck there. Just something like this. So feet close to the hips, knees resting apart. Maybe you have blocks there. Something there is good. For the legs, unless you're super flexible, if the legs are just hanging in space, you might feel a lot of sensation in your inner thighs and groins, but that might actually be what we call the stretch reflex. It's like your body's hanging in space, and so the muscles are tightening to protect your joints, which is not what you want. You want the body to open here. So there's just a little bit of support under the shins. It may not feel as intense, but you might just feel more of like a releasing, kind of streaming flow, which is more of what we want, more than necessarily the biggest stretch of your life here. And just this little bit of height under the upper body. You can adjust that. Take a big breath through the sides of the torso, the shoulder blades a little more underneath you, and then just relax those arms down. Just something like this. And of course, here's where I wish I could see you and help you adjust into a posture that feels supportive for you. I trust that you can adjust in a way that's needed to get what you need. And so with that, I'm going to invite you to rest, to enjoy your rest after this work, to line your body up. Maybe you're even just laying on your back without any support. That's fine. It's always recommended to rest for at least 2 minutes. Give your mind, your nervous system a chance to integrate these new patterns. It's as much about your mind and your nervous system as it is about your body. So resting has many purposes, right? Many reasons. One of them is to integrate new patterns for at least 2 minutes. That's the minimum. And to enjoy, also to rest and to enjoy hopefully this greater state of harmony you're feeling from your work. And to just rest for the sake of resting, and you may have yourself set up to where you're feeling very restful. Maybe you need some rest, and I invite you to stay here for as long as you like. I'm going to send you off into just staying here as long as you wish. At least 2 minutes. But then I give you permission to take a nap, to stay there for 20 minutes. There's really no limit. At some point you may want to straighten your legs if that feels better, but just dive in, right? So yes, please stay as long as you like. I'm gonna bring it to a close here. I will keep this video up on my page. I'll post it to my YouTube page as well, so you always have that easy access. If you're interested, I teach now, you can access it live. The Yoga Collective live classes through Zoom. This is my Thursday 10 a.m. class. It's of course more interactive. I can see you on video. If you want to join that class, you're invited to. And as well, I offer privates. I mean, I love to teach, get into these details, really work on things. And if it's just you and me, I can really see a lot. And consider that. Maybe you want to try a private session and see what we can do together in that individual way. So thank you all for being here and for watching the video in some future moment, if you do. I always love to hear how it's going for you. Leave a comment afterwards. If you're resting now, please continue to rest, whether you're still on live. And we'll just you can send a comment later, or send me a note. So thank you. Take good care, everybody. Take good care of yourself. It's so great that we have this way to just get back to what is in real time, our body, our breath. Feel supported by that. Stay in the flow. Something deeper is happening. Just look at the springtime. Something deeper is always happening. than what we just see on the surface. Thanks, Casey. Thank you for your note. Awesome. So, all right, I'm going to bring it to a close. Blessings. Take good care.